What's up, everyone? It's Nina from Karma Marketing here with another content feature. And this month, we'll be focusing on intentional alignment. And I'm very excited to have our special guest, but maybe I can talk a little bit more about what intentional alignment is. So, with intentional alignment, we want to center on the specific emphasis on self awareness, the clarity of purpose, and maybe even the strategic prioritization of values. And with these kinds of things, we want to cultivate deep and mindful connection with our minds, our body, and our soul. So maybe finding that overall perfect harmony. And I guess we have our guests to talk more about ways to foster that. What is it actually to be clear and authentic with our initial values and our intentions. So we have Divya, and I will have her introduce herself and also share more about what she does and who she is. So Divya, feel free to say hi to the community.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Nina, for this opportunity. Intentional alignment is something that's really close to my heart. So I'm really excited to be speaking about it. So first, I'll explain a little bit about what I do. So I was a former marketer, but in the last 5 years, I have sort of embarked on a personal discovery journey and sort of following my heart and following my passion. And that has led me to wellness and coaching. And so over the last 3 years, I've been a wellness and self-worth coach for ambitious women. And I truly believe that at the core of anyone's successes and to living a fulfilling and meaningful life is intentional alignment and wellness. Because when you live an intentionally aligned life, you are essentially living a well life. You are taking your whole wellness, your entire well-being into consideration. And so, so a lot of my programs for women are centered around intentional alignment. I actually just launched a 8-week online group coaching program called Her Harmony that is about intentionally aligning. I'm going to use these words a lot, I guess.
No worries.
Your mind, body, and soul to support you in achieving your goals and fulfilling your dreams and living that best life that you think is just a figment of your imagination.
That is so awesome. And I'm so excited to have you here because I really want to delve into that actual journey to alignment, which is why the segment for our content feature is really the journey to the full alignment. So talking or like really breaking down the self and relationship dynamics as to how you would recommend to align yourself and also creating that into reality. So let's begin with our first question, which is, how would you define intentional alignment? And how has it helped you in terms of your relationship with yourself and maybe even relationship to other people?
Intentional alignment is when you are in harmony with yourself and you live a life that is in harmony with your values, with your purpose, and with your life goals. Intentional alignment truly means direction. It is knowing where you're going and aligning and being intentional about everything that you bring with yourself on that journey.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's like a way of life where you're not sort of just going with the flow, but you're making sure that you're very deliberate about all the actions that you're taking and what you're putting towards the end goal.
Yeah.
That is for yourself.
I love how you kind of mentioned that it's a clear direction just because everyone has different paths in life. And I think people tend to forget that they are the ultimate controller of their lives. And also, intentions are basically complementary tools to help control your life as well. And having clear direction, I feel like putting intention towards that is more of like being the navigator, like where do you want to go, which direction do you want to follow through in your lifestyle. And with that said, having those clear intentions. Would you have an example as to how it has helped you in terms of your self-relationship or maybe your relationship with friends and family?
Okay, so I think like one of the biggest changes I've noticed since becoming a lot more intentional in my life is that I've developed a sense of self-trust and self-belief.
I love that.
And that is because when you are intentional, you are very mindful of how you're using your time, your energy, your finances. You're very mindful about your routines, your habits. You become so self-aware.
Mhm.
And so when you start making shifts in your life to cater to internet intentionality, like when you want to become more like healthier, for example, and you start making those changes and you stick to those changes and you commit to yourself, you are showing yourself that, hey, I'm taking responsibility of myself, of my future, of my goals, and I'm doing this for me. And so that creates this trust that then turns into confidence because you know if you set your mind to something, you will do it.
Mhm.
So I think that is like one of the really big key takeaways because people are constantly asking me, how do I become more confident in myself? I think this is like the number one thing you can do to increase confidence. Just do the things that you say you're going to do for your goals and for yourself. And honestly, you'll become so much more confident.
Uh,
Yeah.
like, I just read this quote. It was like, the goal in life is not to make perfect choices, but the goal really is to trust your choices. And I really resonate with that because self-love throughout these years in my life, I find that I tend to love myself more when I also hold myself accountable to things. And it's not even like the big steps like, oh, I'm gonna finish a marathon and that's when I'm gonna love myself. Sometimes it's just like, oh, like I'm just gonna spend the morning taking a 20-minute walk, or I'm going to treat myself to a matcha. And when I actually do it, there's just a sense of relief or just a sense of love knowing that I actually did what I was going to do. And I don't think people realize the power it has just to like be able to do things that you say you're going to do. And
Yeah.
I love how you bring that up. And it's not also like a fixed destination. It's not a one-time thing where the moment you say you're going to do something, it's like, yep, I'm changed. It's more of an ongoing process. And even I have to admit, I'm I'm an advocate to these kinds of things, but I still struggle having to hold myself accountable to things. And even with like serious things, like holding accountability to what triggers you, or holding accountability to your insecurities, man, it's like an ongoing journey. And
Yeah.
I think that's where intention really comes in, because then you really have to sit yourself in a place of authenticity. And sometimes being authentic is having to be real with yourself, with the good and the bad stuff.
That's so true. I think honesty is honestly one of those tools that is so important for your growth because only when you face yourself can you make that next step.
Yeah. And it's not
Yeah.
easy. It's like unpacking is just like one of the hardest things that you have to
Yeah.
go back to. And I love that you bring out self accountability. And with self accountability, did that also affect your relationships with your
Uh,
mom, your parents, friends? Is it the same thing?
yes, I would say that now when I make promises, I kind of put my whole heart into it. So whether I'm promising myself or others, I put careful thought and consideration into making those decisions because when you commit to someone else as well, that is you saying that I'm going to do something, and when you don't, then again you are sort of that self-trust goes down even when you break promises that are made to like external parties.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so accountability is an all-around thing, which is why I think it's so important to consider what promises you make to people
Yes.
and to be very sure about the boundaries that are in place. Because when you make a promise to someone else, whether it's a parent or someone you're working with, a client or someone, make sure that there's boundaries drawn so that you know your expectations and they know what they can expect out of the interaction or whatever you're helping them with. And so that you don't have to over compensate or over provide, give more of yourself than you would want to.
Yeah, I think boundaries is super important. And honestly, this is leading to our next question, which is like, the key insights of what you do to like intentionally align with others. But yeah, we can like go back to boundaries because I feel like there is an interlink to like, you know, being accountable because you trust yourself to do these
Yeah.
things. But I think self-trust also comes with integrity, right? Because the things
Yes.
that you say or the things that you put value into shows also your integrity, like what you actually find important. For some people, like example, when you're intentionally aligning with others, let's put in a simple example, like if you're going to meet someone 10:30 a.m., be sure you're there by 10:30 a.m. because you value their time. You know,
Yes.
as part of your integrity. Like I will be there at least before 10:30 a.m. because I value people's time and I know that it's not the same for everyone. So I want to make sure that I arrive there in respect to their own schedules as well. And I don't know, like I feel integrity as well is having enough self-awareness to understand what you yourself put value into, what you put energy into, and what other key insights have you gained when it comes to trying to align your values with other people? I know one is setting boundaries when you realize that people don't value the same things as you. So you can set a boundary there. But are there other ways or other insights that you gain?
I think so. The most important, so relationships are the building blocks of our lives and society, right?
Yeah.
Like literally, we have to have relationships. We can't escape them. And to have healthy relationships is what's going to ensure that we live a very well stress-free sort of life. If we know how to manage our relationships, I think the level of stress we face sort of reduces because we're able to ask for help when we need help and we're able to take a step back from responsibilities in our home or even in work environments if you have like a really good relationship with your superiors or your partners.
Yeah.
And yeah. So besides boundaries, I think knowing who you are is really important in relationships.
Yeah.
Being authentic in your relationships, in communication with others, whether you're meeting them for the first time or, it's someone that you've known all your life. So I think a lot of people kind of do not share their how they truly feel in the moment when they're expressing themselves, whether it's in a business context or even in their real lives. They feel like there's this pressure to want to please others or want to
I'm
look
so
helpful.
guilty. Yeah.
It's very common in women.
Yeah.
um, and we think helping people's what's right, even though we don't have the capacity for it. So really knowing who you are, what your limits are, what your strengths are, and how you can contribute to any relationship dynamic really helps you bring your best to the table.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that would be like the most important thing. Because when you have that, you automatically know how to set boundaries in your relationships.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very mindful dynamic and it really starts within. So I just wanted to add as well to the question, how or like what tools or what exercises or even practices have you done to kind of get to know yourself to that point with the limits, strengths, weaknesses?
Okay, so I think the number one tool that I've used for like, I think almost 10 years now is journaling. So before I got into meditation, breath work, and stuff like that, which helps with bringing your mind and body back into equilibrium,
Mhm.
it started off with journaling. I think because journaling is such a great tool for self-discovery, and we are always on this self-discovery journey.
Yeah.
Because as humans, we are always evolving. Who you were like a year ago is quite different to who you are right now. So if you commit to journaling just a couple of times a week, even, and asking yourself simple questions like, how can I care for myself? What do I need to support myself in this moment?
Yeah.
How can I bring the values that are important to me into my life actively? Because so many of us think we value this and that and this and that, but we never really have time to practice those things. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people value charity and service, but what are you doing on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis or monthly basis to practice service?
Yeah. I think journaling
Yeah,
is powerful too because it forces you to just have a moment to really reflect and think about things.
yeah,
And it's very easy, especially in these days, it's easy to just open up a phone, scroll, doom scroll forever until the end of the day. And
yeah,
when you're mindfully putting yourself in a place to think about things, I think it also grounds you. And
yeah. I think,
a lot of people, I feel, get insecure, when people get insecure or when people get really stressed, I feel that it's also because they're stuck fixating on uncertainties. And sometimes the uncertainty of things is because we don't take enough time to think about what it is that we're actually stressing about. And I think journaling is great because then you can like list out what are the things that you are actually uncertain about, or what is like what's a definite picture of like how I'm feeling right now. So
yeah.
yeah, I agree, journaling is super great.
And I think I'd like to add that if you start your days intentionally, it like the word you use, grounding, is super important to how you show up in your day, right? If you're grounded and you feel composed and clear, you're going
Yeah.
to show up in your day with that energy. But if you start your day scattered and rushed, then that energy is also going to show up as you move through your day.
That's
So I
true.
think I've had a morning routine from like school days. I think our parents usually make sure we have a morning routine as kids. But when you become an adult and you have the freedom to
Yeah,
just
we
wake
have
up
no
and
schedule.
brush your teeth and hop on a call,
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we forget that routine can actually be a good thing. And starting our day with um the things that bring us joy, bring us calm, can truly set us up for success in that day.
Yeah, the difference my day is when it's waking up and just like writing 3 bullet points of like things I'm grateful for, or 3 favorite things from yesterday, compared to like a day where I wake up and like instantly open my phone, scroll. It's like it's big because it's like a day where I'm like I get to set intentions versus a day where I'm like on autopilot because I'm just like
Yeah.
checking out what's on the screen and stuff. So I do agree. Like I even use Notion a lot just to journal those things when I don't have enough time to like sit down and write. Like, just like
Yeah.
popping up a Notion, put it on a bullet point, things I'm grateful for is
Yeah.
it makes a big difference.
It truly does.
Yeah. And let's go on to the last question, which is um what would be your piece of advice for those who are considering to cultivate that intentional alignment, or for those who are still trying to look for that harmony in their life, whether it's professional or personal?
So if there was one piece of advice that I would have to give, it would be that firstly, intentional alignment isn't something we have to really search for. It's not something that's outside there that we have to look for, and we shouldn't feel like it is a constant sort of self-improvement thing that we chase. It really is about pausing and being. It is about taking a second to step away from the continuous doing, which is what kind of happens in our busy world these days. We're constantly just running on autopilot, doing task after task, and then doom scrolling because we're so tired from doing task after task. And so, really giving ourselves a break from the doing and just sitting with ourselves
Yeah.
and being present. And by being present with yourself each day, even if it's just 10 minutes, you learn new things about yourself. In that 10 minutes, you'll have thoughts like, I actually don't feel like going for that HIIT workout today. I think my body needs more rest. Maybe I'll go for a walk. Or, you'll have thoughts like, um, I'm not too sure if I'm doing enough for myself. Maybe today I want to have a self-care day. But only when you pause can these thoughts arise. And so to start living a more intentional life, the first thing would be to pause, take a breather, and sit with yourself.
Yeah.
And have tools that kind of allow you to do that as well. Like maybe meditation. You can start with like guided meditations, or you can start by getting a pretty notebook. I don't know. Every time I stop journaling, I feel like when I want to start, I need a new pretty notebook. And so getting something that is going to motivate you to write and placing it somewhere close to you, like right beside my bed. So I'm like, it's right there. I have no excuse but to jot down a few things before I go to bed and when I wake up.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing. And lastly is having compassion for yourself, because it is a lifelong journey being intentionally aligned. And you are going to sometimes step away from that.
Yeah.
And that's completely fine because you are human. You need to be spontaneous sometimes. You
Thank you
need to
for
have
bringing that
fun.
up. Yeah.
You can't always be like, super focused, and having time to have fun and play, that can be something that you are intentionally aligned with as well. So making sure you make time for that, and time for rest. Yeah, it's not just goal driven and purpose driven, it's also life driven.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Like I came across this video too, and it was talking about how like, you know, growth isn't solely just on self-improvement or like self-work, but a lot of it is actually it's like 20% self-work or like self-improvement, but 80% self-acceptance. And like if you
yeah,
don't start with sitting by yourself or sitting with yourself trying to accept certain things about you, then you won't be clear as to where or what you're working on. And I think it's great that you bring that up because like I think when you commit to like self-work all your days, 24 hours, you're gonna get a burnout. And it's a different kind of
yeah,
burnout. It's not work burnout. It's like a genuine burnout where you feel lost in life or you find a lack of purpose because you don't know what you're geared towards to, what actually motivates you or why you're doing certain things. So I think it's great to kind of put a reminder that everything is in moderation. Like sometimes you don't
and
hyperanalyze stuff.
I think the awareness that we have of ourselves sometimes can be quite critical, right? Like you're aware that you're not doing something, and then that can eat at you for days, and that
Yeah.
makes you procrastinate even further,
Yeah.
for like making the changes or studying a new way of living, whatever it is that you're trying to do. So sometimes the best thing to do is, if today you don't feel like it, accept that and be like, okay, today I can't show up as that, but because I feel like resting, or I feel like actually focusing on work. Because sometimes when you are working and you have a good train of thought going, you do want to just focus and get it done.
Yeah, that's me. And I think it's great you put that up because a lot of people tend to have a critical voice in their head. And I
Yeah.
think it's also just good to put out that when you're trying to set intentions, the voice within should always be soft,
Uh,
gentle. but also authentic, you know, like it's real, but not real to the point where it's like hateful or negative. It's just really
Yeah.
coming from a place of awareness. And I think awareness is good because, you know, to define it overall, you're not judging yourself. You're not also like love bombing yourself. You're just really noticing certain things and you're like, okay, like this is what's happening, like whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, like you allow yourself to be this person today, but you know that tomorrow you can go back and revisit whatever it is you felt like you needed to do.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that. I hope to anyone that's listening, they're enjoying the conversation as much as I am and taking bits of wisdom too from such an amazing convo. So thank you so much, Divya, for sharing your insights and your overall journey to alignment. To those who are tuning in, hope you've learned or taken something to carry on throughout the rest of your day. And yeah, welcoming or can't wait for the next segment onto our karma marketing feature. So for now, peace and love, karma marketing.